Alright, Tom here from Golden Goal, back with another FPL video. This time I'm going to talk about the teams with the best fixtures in FPL. Stick with me and I'll take you through them. So what I thought I'd start this video with is just a quick, simple grid of the teams that I think have the best fixtures from game week 17 to 21. In no particular order, they're just arranged alphabetically by the looks of it. So we got Chelsea first, Bournemouth, Forest, a double in 19, Palace and Liverpool. I think that's a really nice fixture run. Obviously, Man City and Liverpool are the two outstanding, difficult fixtures there. But the fact that Man City is mixed into a double and Liverpool comes at the end of that run, you could arguably come off your Chelsea assets in 20, maybe move on to someone like maybe from Arsenal who've got a double in 22, etc., etc. So I do think Chelsea have got a good fixture run there. And yeah, that double in 19, how many points they'll get against Man City, I'm not entirely sure. But the fact that the other fixture is Fulham to back it up, it basically means, well, they've got 4 green fixtures in 4 weeks. And I do think they've got to turn it around, surely, defensively under Potter. I think they're too good to fail, really, under him. So, yeah, I back Chelsea to have a bit of a renaissance post the World Cup. And I really like their fixtures too. And then next up, we've got Fulham. First fixture, it being Palace, Southampton, a nice double with Leicester and Chelsea, Newcastle and Tottenham. The thing I would say with Fulham is defensively, I don't think I'd be going anywhere near them. I could see them conceding in pretty much all of those games, but going forward, they seem to be pretty ruthless. And against pretty much any team, they seem to be scoring goals. And having a double in game week 19 as well, it makes me think that they could, some of their attacking assets, for example, could be good picks. And coming from the start, they've got Crystal Palace and Southampton as well. So, yeah, I could quite happily have a or two Fulham attackers in my team for 17 onwards. Next on my list was Liverpool. Villa, Leicester, Brentford, Brighton and Chelsea is their run from 17 to 21. I think that looks pretty good as well. I think the fixture grid sort of, it's not the wrong colour, but I would consider these fixtures as good ones for Liverpool, whereas they're grey on this list. But yeah, I really like that Liverpool run, and I could quite easily see them scoring in each of those games. Again, similar to Fulham, I'm not sure how good they are defensively. They've just not been at it this season. I'm hoping that not really, I'm a Man United fan, but from a fantasy perspective, we can hope that they have a bit of a renaissance post the World Cup like Chelsea. Some of their players would have had a chance to have a bit of a rest, although the likes of Van Dijk and Konate have been playing at the World Cup. But I do back Liverpool to change things. I think their defensive numbers have been so consistent season on season. I just can't see them turning really bad for too long. I guess that remains to be seen, but I definitely see Liverpool scoring some goals in those games and would favour picking some Liverpool attackers. And then Man City's next. That's also a really nice run for them. Leeds, Everton, Chelsea, a double, and then Wolves. Obviously, the double's not the most favourable fixtures for Man City. I think Man United and Tottenham historically do okay. I think the fact that they like to play on the counter and Man City like to play a high line, I think they match up quite well. So I wouldn't necessarily back too many clean sheets in 20, but against all of those teams, you could quite easily see Man City scoring some goals. So for that reason, they've made the list, I think. And it doesn't really matter who Man City play, in my opinion. They're always a threat and can score goals. But yeah, I think all those fixtures considered, I still think that's one of the better fixture runs of the teams in the Prem. Man United were next with Forest, Wolves, Bournemouth, City and Arsenal. Certainly the focus here is on those first 3 fixtures. I think Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth for Man United is probably the best run of the lot. And then maybe you could switch off a Man United player for game week 20 if you wanted. But I do think it's worth backing Man United for those first 3 fixtures. The one caveat I would add to that is I just don't think, or I don't trust them defensively. The fact that their good defensive performances have come when Martinez and Varane have partnered each other at the back. Having watched the World Cup final last night, Varane, I think he got subbed early. I don't know if he was injured, but he didn't look in a good way. Whether he's actually injured or not, I suppose will come out. And then his partner Martinez, he's just won the World Cup, so he's going to be back to Argentina and celebrating for the next week. And we're on the 19th of December now, and football returns in a week's time. I'm just not convinced that Martinez is going to be playing for Man United on Boxing Day, and neither is Varane. So I don't think they're necessarily trustworthy defensively, but going forwards, I think they definitely are, and they could score some goals in those first three. And then next up, we've got Southampton. Their run is Brighton, Fulham, Forest, Everton and Villa. I think of all these teams on that list, maybe bar West Ham, this is probably the best set of fixtures. Unfortunately, I think Southampton are probably the worst team on this list. They obviously have decent players, but personally, I don't think I'm going to pick any of them. But I do think you can't ignore the fixture run that they've got. I think those are some really nice fixtures, and it could open up some of their assets to be pickable in FPL. Final two with Spurs. We got Brentford, Villa, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Man City in a double, and finishing off with Fulham. I think that's a really nice run as well. Similarly with the Liverpool fixtures there, I think some of them should be coloured green when they're actually grey, but I could see them scoring in pretty much all of these games, and I wouldn't be too put off by the Arsenal and Man City fixtures either. It's a similar story to what I said about... well, I think I've already said this about the Man City fixtures, haven't I, actually? But yeah, Spurs like to play on the break against teams that play a high line, and Arsenal and Man City tick those boxes. So, yeah, I think game week 20, that double could be really nice for Spurs. And, yeah, I think we all know who their key assets are, but I'll go through them later in the video. And then finishing off with Fulham in 21, I think that makes, personally, Spurs have one of the best fixture sets there. And I definitely consider some of their assets in my team. And then finally, West Ham. I think they're a little bit dark horses at the moment for me. A lot of their squad hasn't gone to the World Cup, so they're going to be pretty fresh and raring to go for the restart. For first fixtures, Arsenal, which is obviously top of the league, away, top of the league's not very good, but then their four preceding fixtures from that point are fantastic. They've got Brentford, Leeds, Wolves and Everton. I just think that's a brilliant run. Obviously, I'll go through who I think are the good assets there, but I really like that run for West Ham. Maybe you could have someone else to start with 17 and then look to bring in your West Ham asset afterwards. But to be honest, I don't know, first game back, West Ham like to play on the break, similar to the likes of Spurs and United. They could well score against Arsenal as well. I don't really back a clean sheet in that game, but I could see West Ham scoring. So anyway, that's a quick summary of the teams with the best fixtures, and I'll get on to the assets that I think you should be picking. Okay, so the first team on the list was Chelsea, and for me, there are three key players from that Chelsea squad that I think you should be looking at in FPL. First one being Kepa. I think he's just unbelievable value at 4.5 million. I think if you were to tell anyone at the start of the season that the starting Chelsea goalkeeper was going to be 4.5 million, I think they'd have bitten your hand off and bought him straight away. So for that reason, I think he's the outstanding goalkeeper for this wildcard period. He's 4.5 million. He was playing for Potter when Mendy was actually fit. He was proven to be first choice. He is managing a heel injury, so it's one to monitor. I think he'll be fit for the 26th, and obviously we'll get the Twitter news. So, yeah, for that reason, I think he's a great option. And to be honest, for those 4 game weeks from 17 to 20, even with that Man City game mixed in there, I think they could keep at least 2 or 3 clean sheets. And I think for 4.5 million, you would absolutely take that. Next guy is Mount. There aren't really many Chelsea attacking players that play regularly. I think Mount is the most regular playing one on that list. So for that reason, I think he's a good option. He also historically seems to do well against the lower teams in the league as well. So targeting a green fixture run for Chelsea with Mason Mount is the way to go. I remember he scored multiple braces and hat-tricks, or a brace and a hat-trick, I think, against Norwich last season. And there were other low-level teams that he did that to as well. So I think it's a bit of a trend with Mason Mount. For that reason, I think he's a good option from 17 onwards. And then the next guy doesn't need too much introduction, I don't think. I think when Reece James is fit, he's one of the best fullbacks in the league, certainly going forwards as well as defensively. And yeah, I think those are strong fixtures for Reece James to potentially get some attacking returns in, as well as keep some clean sheets. In one of my previous videos, I did a bit of a stats dial-in on James, and he is getting 0.33 attacking returns per 90 so far. And I think with that fixture run, you could expect it to improve a little bit. So yeah, I would expect, like with Kepa, 2 or 3 clean sheets and probably 2 or 3 attacking returns from 17 to 20 as well. And I think for 5.8 million, which I think is his price at the moment, I don't really think you can say no to that. Similarly to Kepa, though, he obviously missed the Euros with an injury. He's being managed back into that Chelsea team. So it's a wait and see as to whether he's fit enough to play. We get enough news over Twitter that we'll know for the 26th if he's fit to play or not. I'm sure Potter will tell us in his press conference. So for now, those are the 3 players that I think you should pick from Chelsea. Next up is Fulham. It's quite a simple one for me, really. I said when I went through the big list of all the teams, I don't really back them defensively. And realistically, I think there are only 2 players that you can probably pick from Fulham. And that's Mitrovic and Andreas Pereira. Pereira is obviously the bench legend of this season, although he's been a bit of a troll for me because every time I've started him, he's not done anything. And then when I've left him on the bench, he's returned. It's just the nature of the beast this season. But yeah, Mitrovic and Pereira is pretty much the obvious 2 from Fulham, isn't it? And I think both of them they're in my team at the moment, and I think they probably should be in yours as well. I think Mitrovic's ownership is going to be ridiculous. He's absolutely nailed to start. He's on the penalties. His expected returns per 90 numbers are right up there with Harry Kane, and he's nearly 5 million less. So I think for that reason, you simply have to have him. And then Pereira, just because he's the pick of the cheap midfielders still, in my opinion, and especially with that double in 19, I think it's going to be really hard not to start him in game week 19 with that double. Even if he doesn't do anything, he's guaranteed pretty much to get 4 points just for starting 2 games. Yeah, you watch that bite me with him getting sent off or something. But yeah, Fulham's nice and easy. I think those are the 2 players you should go for. Okay, next up on this list was Liverpool. I think for me personally, there are probably 4 assets at the moment that you could go for from their squad. Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mo Salah and Darwin Núñez. Personally at the moment, I'm owning Salah and Núñez. I still don't trust Liverpool defensively. I think we need to see a genuine improvement in their performances before I'm willing to actually buy their assets. But I think if you were feeling a little bit punty, I don't think many people will be on Robertson or Trent. I certainly haven't seen it in the Twitter world anyway. And I think they could well be a good shout if you're looking really to gain some ground straight away. But personally, Salah and Núñez are the real 2 outstanding ones. Salah, he's an FPL legend. You know, he's just ridiculous for points returns over seasons and seasons in FPL, and I don't think it's gone away. His stats have regressed a little bit, but comparing him to Kevin De Bruyne, who is of similar value, their expected returns number are pretty much exactly the same, but Salah is more weighted towards goals. And obviously in FPL, goals are more points yielding, so I do think that Salah is probably the pick above Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, he doesn't have a double game week in 20 like Kevin De Bruyne does, but he's nailed for 90 minutes pretty much every game. He takes the penalties. I don't think you can say that about De Bruyne either. And not to mention, Salah, I don't think has had a penalty for Liverpool this season, so that's not come into play with his numbers either. So yeah, I do think Salah, it can't really talk anyone out of picking him. Similarly with Darwin Núñez as well, I think he's got a clear run in that starting 11, at least to the middle of January by the sounds of it, with the Diaz and Jota injury news. So I think he's going to be pretty safe to start Villa, Leicester and Brentford. And his expected returns per 90 when he started are just off the chain. I think he's expected over 1 return per 90. And at 9 million, I think he's really good value. And against Villa, Leicester and Brentford, I think those are teams that Liverpool can really get at. So yeah, I would back Salah and Núñez as my preferred 2. But obviously, Robertson and Trent are historic good FPL options. And it would be impossible to say that they're bad. I think, yeah, they're considerations if you're looking to go a bit different, I think. So that summarises Liverpool nicely. And the next team was Man City. I've got a list of 5 players here all huddled together. I think there are 5 players from Man City that you can consider. First one being Kyle Walker. I think personally he's probably the best value defender. And looking at his record of starting before he got injured, I think he started 8 of 9 Premier League games before his injury, which makes me think that Pep really favours him in that position. And I think he's only 4.8 million as well, so it's great value for a player that I don't think many of the Man City defenders other than Cancelo are nailed to play regularly. And I think Walker's right up there with obviously Diaz, Laporte, Akanji for how likely he's going to be to start. So I do think he's a really nice option. It could be a bit of a differential as well. One caveat with Walker, he doesn't really get any attacking returns, so you're really reliant on clean sheets, which I think Man City could definitely get in 17 and 18. But looking at 19 and 20, bit iffy. I think they could probably concede in some of those games. So I think one to monitor, but Walker definitely worth a look. Kevin De Bruyne next. I don't think he needs too much introduction. He's been one of the best players in the league for multiple seasons, right up there with Salah in terms of expected attacking returns. Obviously, the double game week in 20 is a factor to consider between the two of them. Do you favour the nailedness of Salah and the proven record of goal scoring, or do you go for De Bruyne, who's more weighted towards assists, but he's got a double in 20? Then Phil Foden, obviously, is another option. He's completely ruined me in FPL. I think, like most, I sold Trossard for him, and then he proceeded not to start for a number of fixtures afterwards. I think he did something to annoy Pep Guardiola. So yeah, who knows how nailed Phil Foden is. And for that reason, he won't be making it in my team. But I do think the upside is there with him. And at 8.3 million for a Man City mid who gets really, right up there in terms of goals and assists, I still think he's a good option if you're willing to take the risk. I don't really need to say much about Erling Haaland. You just simply have to have him in your team, and he's definitely the best captain for game week 17. And then João Cancelo, I think at the start of the season, it was unquestionable that you had to go with him. He was just such good value. His attacking returns have dropped off a little bit this season, and he is quite expensive for what he provides. I'm personally still going to go with him because I've got a feeling his attacking returns are going to go up a little bit, and he is the one Man City defender that I think you can consider to be pretty nailed, and for that reason, I think he's worth paying the premium for. So, Man City. Man United up next, and similarly to City, I think there are 5 players that you should consider from them. Like I was saying at the start though, I am personally, as a Man United fan, not massively trusting of them defensively, but at the value that they provide, I still think Shaw and Dalot are worth considering, but I will personally be avoiding them. So starting off with Martial, I think he's going to be the first choice striker for Man United now Ronaldo's gone. It's just whether he can stay fit. I think there are goals in him for each of those games. It's just whether he can stay fit. His expected returns per 90, I think it's actually over 1, similar to Darwin Núñez. So he's right up there, at the top of the league with the likes of Haaland, etc. It's just whether he can stay fit. But I think he's worth taking the risk on if you fancy it. And yeah, with that fixture run, I think he's a great option. Bruno Fernandes, now Ronaldo's gone, he's going to be considered the talisman of that United team. He's not been too great for attacking returns this season so far. I think he's only got 2 goals and 1 assist, which isn't great compared to what he's done in previous seasons. And at 9.8 million, I think you could probably do a bit better than that personally. The reason you pick Fernandes is obviously just the whole aura of him being that talisman again, being on the penalties, taking some of the set pieces. We just want to see that talismanic Bruno Fernandes come back, and maybe for 17, 18 and 19 in those easy fixtures, that could be the time that he does it. Marcus Rashford, I think he's probably my pick of that Man United lot. I just think he's such good value, and if Martial, for example, gets injured again, Rashford's going to be the first choice centre forward for Man United. And I think if you've got the first choice centre forward, or potentially centre forward for Man United for under 7 million, I don't really think you can go wrong with that. So yeah, those are my 5 Man United players for consideration. Personally, I won't be going near, most of them, but I do think Martial and Rashford are the outstanding options. On to Southampton, who I did say at the start, I do think probably have the best on-paper fixture run of all teams. Personally, I think there are 3 players you can go for from Southampton: Shea Adams, Perraud and James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse, because he's nailed to play, even under a new manager, I think he's going to start every game. He's famous for playing 90 minutes every game and not really missing any through injury either. He usually averages about 10 attacking returns per season. Most of them come from the fact that he's probably one of the best free kick takers in the world. He hasn't really been amongst the goals too much this season. It might be the fact that they're going to return from 17 to 21. I think he's only 6.2 million now, which I think is really good value for what he could potentially provide. He doesn't have a double mixed into that though. I think if Southampton had a double game week, they'd probably be more up for consideration. But for me, I don't think I'm going to be picking them. But I don't think I would find it easy to talk someone out of James Ward-Prowse though, with the potential that he could have in those games. Perraud, he's probably the best Southampton defender in my opinion. Not only has he's got potential clean sheets in those games. He's been the best Southampton defender for attacking returns. He's got a couple of goals this season, and he's been amongst the assists as well. So for that reason, I think he's probably the outstanding defensive pick from Southampton. And then Che Adams, he's not really nailed as such, but he's probably their first choice striker. And for that reason, for that run, I think I just have to mention the Southampton first choice striker. But I've never really had anything out of Che Adams in FPL, and he's not really my preferred option. But I felt like he was worth a mention if we're talking about Southampton. So for me, I think the order is right to left in terms of the quality of options that Southampton provide. James Ward-Prowse number 1, Perraud number 2, Che Adams number 3. And I've gone very interesting not with the picks from Spurs. Basically just gone for their starting front three in Kane, Son and Kulusevski. Like I said, I think they've got one of the nicer fixture runs of even the best fixture runs in the game, right? I think this is one of the best of them all. Kane, Son, Kulusevski. Kulusevski's probably the one I would go for out of the three, to be honest, just because of the potential value that he provides. I think previously you'd be worried about how nailed he is with Richarlison in the squad, but Richarlison's got a hamstring injury at the moment, I believe. So it's looking likely that Kulusevski is going to play. I'd say he's probably going to be first choice for 3 or 4 weeks going forwards. So you're looking at Brentford, Villa, Crystal Palace, and then a double with Arsenal and Man City. And obviously on paper they look like tough fixtures, Arsenal, Man City. But I think with the way that Spurs play, they'd actually match up quite well against those teams. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Kulusevski, Kane and Son came away with a few points against both of those teams. But for me, I think Kulusevski is the best value of those three. He's only 8 million, significantly cheaper than Kane and Son. And I think comparably their numbers aren't too different either. So for that reason, I think Kulusevski is number 1, but how can you talk someone out of Kane and Son as well? Son will probably be, looking for a bit of a resurgence after a World Cup that ended in, I think Korea already surpassed expectations, but he will surely want to kick on in the Premier League following getting knocked out. Harry Kane, I'm a little bit unsure on. He's also got 4 yellow cards as well. You're looking for one more yellow card before 19. If he gets a yellow in 17 or 18, it's a 1-game ban. So hopefully he can be good in 17 and 18 and not get that yellow. But if he does, you're going to miss a fixture, unfortunately. And I don't know, we'll see what his mentality is like following that World Cup. Obviously, they got knocked out in heartbreaking circumstances and he missed a penalty. I don't know how that's going to affect him. And for that reason, I think I'm going to stay clear. I think it's too much money for a player that's on 4 yellows, and we're not entirely sure of his fitness, because he played a lot of football at the World Cup, or his mental state either. I think I'm going to be swerving Kane for that reason. Kane, Son, Kulusevski, 3 pickable players from Spurs. And then last but not least, West Ham. And to be honest, I'm a bit cynical, but there's really only one player I would go for from West Ham, and that's the man that is Jarrod Bowen. He was their legend last season, outstanding player, talisman. I'm not sure he's on the penalties anymore, but I do back him to have a bit of a return to form, and I think those 4 fixtures from 18 to 21 are a really good opportunity to do that. One thing I will say is that his expected returns have not been horrendous this season. I know he hasn't actually got many goals or assists at all, but his numbers are they're not quite the level of last season, but XG and expected assists, I think they're about 0.5, which is not too bad. And he's had that rest over the World Cup, time to recoup, get in the gym, work harder, and come back firing in 17. And I think he could do quite well for that run. But yeah, he's really the only player from West Ham that I'd pick. So Jarrod Bowen, West Ham, decent run, worth a shout. Alright, and that concludes the video. I hope I didn't ramble too much there and that you found that useful. Spent a bit of time looking at the fixtures, thought it would be worth sharing my thoughts. If you agreed with what I said or disagreed, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, like the video and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. I've got more FPL content coming your way ahead of the Game Week 17 deadline. I'll see you in the next video.